In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Heavenly Father, we ask you to send down the Holy Spirit upon us to help to form and to shape us, to be able to walk with and care for those parents who are experiencing the loss of a child for whatever reason. By the power of the Holy Spirit, help us to be good listeners and good consolers for those who are hurting. And we beg the mantle of protection of the Mother of God as we pray. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen. Our Lady of Sorrows, Saint Joseph, in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for coming this morning. My name is Bob Wurzelbacher. I'm the director of the Respect Life Office and the Office for Persons with Disabilities here at the Archdiocese of Cincinnati. I know how busy and difficult it is to come down for a presentation this morning, so I'm very, very thankful that you all took the time to do that this morning. This is an important ministry to be able to reach out to families who've experienced miscarriage and stillbirth, and how to also equip your parishioners or bereavement teams to help them help you with your ministry as well. I've known Donna Murphy for probably about 5 years, and you've known my mother for longer, much longer than that. She came into my office as soon as I became the director in Respect Life, and easily convinced me that this was an important thing, right? And since my mother had a good recommendation for her as well, but I was much more impressed after I started watching her give her presentations and watching her ministry. I think you're really in for some helpful tips and ministry when you listen to Donna Murphy and all the experience she has with this. Thank you, Donna.
Good morning. Thank you so much for coming. On behalf of all the families that you will serve who lose a baby, thank you so much for spending this time here today. It is a great joy to see you here. Thank you for giving us the sacraments. Thank you for everything that you do to serve us and to bring us closer to God. And thank you for caring about these families who lose a baby due to miscarriage, stillbirth, or early infant death. So this pastoral education is called Serving Families Experiencing the Loss of a Baby, and I'm Donna Murphy. I am a wife to Jim and a mother to 11 children. 3 of my children, I believe, live in heaven. I have 7 biological children on earth, and I have 1 adopted daughter. And it is a privilege to be their mom. I was a volunteer at Pregnancy Center West since 1989. I also volunteered for Pregnancy Center East and for Cincinnati Right to Life. I was a speaker for baby development. I helped develop their chastity program, and I served clients there for many years. As I said, I've also been trained through Resolve Through Sharing, which is supposedly the top trainer for medical personnel for people who lose babies. I'm a certified baby loss doula, a certified baby loss advisor through Lost Doulas International. I'm a board member for the Rachel's Gift Foundation, and I'm the co-founder with my husband, Jim Murphy, of Heaven's Gain Ministries. And we started that in 2008. Our mission at Heaven's Gain is to provide for the physical, emotional, and spiritual needs of families experiencing pregnancy loss before, during, and after the delivery of their precious baby. And we'll go over the before, during, and after throughout this presentation, because it's important to help families from the time they find out there is no heartbeat all the way through long after. I believe that we are the most comprehensive organization for miscarriage and stillbirth. We're one of the few that is pro-life, and all that glory is to God. We serve over 1,500 families every single year. We have 3,000 to 6,000 visitors every month on our website, and I will have people who say, I've been on your website for 5 days straight studying how this miscarriage is going to go, but I just have one more question I'd like to ask you. We do research through babylosssurvey.com. All of our support services are free to our families. I would like all of our caskets and urns to be free, but we haven't found that big donor yet. And we are a 501c3 nonprofit. We have developed a program called the Advocates for Parents of Perinatal Loss, which is a program where we are trying to teach all around the country so that there are people that are doing what we are doing all around the country. And it's not easy to deal with baby loss every single day of your life. So I ask you to pray for me and all of us at Heaven's Gate Ministries, please. So what we will cover today is before delivery, before, during, and after delivery. We will cover the hospital and what it's like for you to go into the hospital with someone having a miscarriage or stillbirth, the burial of the baby, the traumas that are associated with loss, the triggers that happen that will set us off. What is Heaven's Gate Ministries and what do we do? And your response is clergy. And the seminarians we will do some practice sessions, and the seminarians call that the hot seat activity. So I'm just going to call it the hot seat activity. So I'm going to give you a couple little terms and definitions just so you know. A live birth is a baby born at any point in pregnancy. So actually recently a Good Sam was a baby born at 12 weeks alive at Good Sam. And that's considered a live birth, even though that baby's only 3 inches long. An embryo is any baby prior to 8 weeks, and a fetus is any baby at 8 weeks to birth in the womb. And perinatal hospice or palliative care is innovative and compassionate model of support for parents who choose to continue their pregnancies and following a poor prenatal diagnosis, and they want to spend as much time with that baby even though they have a life-limiting condition, and they may die shortly after birth. You may think it's a very small piece of the puzzle of what happens, but in the first trimester, 1 in 4 babies died due to miscarriage. 1 in 4. That is huge. Recently, the number of miscarriages has exceeded the number of abortions in this country. And so, because the number of abortions are going down and the number of miscarriages are not. So in the first trimester, parents either deliver at home or their baby is removed by a D&C surgery in the hospital. In the second trimester, when that mom has that cute baby bump, but she's not huge, but she's obviously pregnant, 1 in 33 of those women will lose their baby. And that's shocking to a lot of people. That is 1 in 33. So it's a lot more moms than we realize. And those babies rarely are delivered at home. I never recommend that. Usually I recommend delivery in the hospital. Of course, I'm not giving medical advice, but delivering at home can be very dangerous in the second trimester due to blood loss. And then there is also a surgery where they remove the baby in the second trimester. And in the third trimester, it's 1 in 160, which still, I think, when you think you made it to the point where the baby can't survive outside the womb, it's kind of shocking that 1 in 160 babies actually pass in that third trimester. So over 1 million moms miscarry every year, 24,000 babies are stillborn each year, and 22,000 babies die in the first year of life. So with Roe versus Wade overturned, those are statistics pre-Roe versus Wade overturned. So if there were 1 million moms who were miscarrying already, then can you imagine how many more now if with Roe versus Wade? Just statistically wise, those who continue their pregnancy that would have aborted, 1 out of 4 of those will lose their baby, and so we're going to have a lot more. And babies with poor prenatal diagnosis, it was 92% of those babies were aborted that had a poor prenatal diagnosis or some chromosomal abnormality. And now those babies will probably not be aborted in our state or in many states. Some of those babies will live and will need your support. A lot of Downs babies or trisomy 13, 18. A lot of these babies that might live, those families are going to need your support, but a lot of these babies will also die. And so there's going to be a lot more need for support for families who have a poor prenatal diagnosis who are deciding to carry their babies to term, thanks to our new laws. Pregnancy loss, as I said, is not rare. and it's going to affect you because you serve the families experiencing the loss of a baby. So if you think about this in your parish, if every family was only got pregnant twice, that would mean if 1 in 4 babies are lost, on average, 50% of your families in your parish would be experiencing pregnancy loss. So this is something that really does affect you. It affects you and it affects your families. So your response is going to have a huge impact on families. I'd like to explain miscarriage versus stillbirth. These are legal terms. They are legal terms that vary according to the state that you live in. And so in Ohio, the baby is a miscarriage if it's 19 weeks or less, and 20 weeks or forward is a stillbirth. If you're in Pennsylvania, it's 15 weeks or less, and 16 weeks or forward is a stillbirth. If you're in Hawaii, it's 23 weeks or less as a miscarriage, or 24 weeks or forward is a stillbirth. So it's going to vary. So the laws are going to vary. So if you have a family who miscarried here, but they're going to take their baby to another state, you're dealing with laws from a lot of different states. And parents who miscarry their child, let me say this again, parents who have a stillbirth have full rights to decide the disposition of their baby's remains. But parents who lose their baby due to miscarriage in less than 20 states are there laws that give the parents the right to choose disposition of their baby's remains. And that hospital may have a policy that those babies will go into medical waste. And so policies can be changed, but the law is the law, and there's nothing that parent is going to do about it short term. And so it's really important that you understand this situation, because people will call you hysterical because the hospital will not let them have their baby because they don't have any rights. In Ohio, my husband and I were part of a number of parents who wrote to the state of Ohio legislature, and it was passed in 2008 that all parents who lose a baby in the state of Ohio have the right to their baby's remains. So if the doctor's office tells your families that they don't have rights to that baby, that is not true in the state of Ohio, and that's important to know. I have a family I helped last year who had previously lost a baby, knew about the law in the state of Ohio because of us, but her doctor's office said, you have no right to that baby. And she said, no, wait, I've been to Heaven's Gate. I know the laws in the state of Ohio. I do have the rights to my baby's remains. And so since parents may or may not have rights in different states, this may affect how it goes with your family. But even if it wasn't a million moms, even if it was just one family, even if it wasn't a million families, even if it was just one family, we have to care for that family. We have to serve that family. They have a serious need. And a care and response to pregnancy loss can make a huge difference. This is when many couples will have the biggest test of their faith, when they lose a baby. This is the hardest time that my husband and I have ever gone through. I wouldn't say it tested our faith so much because we were pretty strong, but it was very, very hard time. The bonding of a mother and child. I'm going to have to put my glasses on for this. John Paul II says, on the human level, can there be any other communion comparable to that between a mother and a child whom she has carried in her womb and then brought to birth? He also says parenthood, even though it belongs to both, is realized much more fully in the woman, especially in the prenatal period. It is the woman who pays directly for the shared generation, which literally absorbs the energies of her body and soul. And again, he's so great. Motherhood involves a special communion with the mystery of life as it develops in the woman's womb. The mother is filled with wonder at this mystery of life and understands the unique intuition, what is happening inside of her. In the light of the beginning, the mother accepts and loves as a person the child she is carrying in her womb. So even with a very early miscarriage, a mother understands that this is truly a baby, this is truly her child, their child. And there's a medical term called microchimerism. Actually, your mom's carried cells from your body in her brain and other parts of her body after you left her. So the baby's cells will always be with her. So I think that's a really cool thing. So I'm going to talk about the family and how pregnancy loss affects the family. And these are generalizations. This is everybody's different. Sometimes the mom whatever. So moms tend to experience denial, shock, and profound sadness, and they can't perform even minor tasks. So one of the things that was a great gift to me is somebody sent us bagel sandwiches when we lost our last child, because I couldn't even figure out how to make a sandwich. And so the inability to perform minor tasks is tough, and also the inability to remember what anybody has said. So it's okay to repeat what you've said. They say only 10% of what is said is retained in this situation. Dad is so busy trying to protect mom and take care of his baby that he tends to delay his mourning, or he hides his mourning. And often males need to have action items to do. And sadly, the dad is forgotten. I hear of men telling me over and over, I go into work and they say, how's your wife? But no one ever asks, how am I doing? And so that's really sad. And so it's important that we ask the dad, how is he doing? Siblings have trouble understanding death and grief, and they may be grieving, and they may be worried about their parents. Some siblings don't know why parents grieve or why they are not enough to make their parents happy. So they'll say, why are you sad? Why weren't we enough? Why wasn't this many children enough? And they don't understand. I would have grieved if you died too. So sometimes that's hard. Once again, boy siblings are doers. And so they may want to do things. Just like dad may want to do things. I always say, I get calls from moms saying, the dad wants to make the casket, and what do you think of that? And I said, let him. He needs to be a doer. He needs to provide for his child. He needs to be able to do something for his child. You were able to give that baby food, nourishment, warmth. You're able to give that baby all these needs, but he hasn't given his child anything. And so if he wants to make that casket, let him. If it doesn't work out, we can get you something else. But make sure that you're letting him meet his needs too. In the same way, siblings. When I lost Gabriel, my oldest son was working for a landscaping company, and he did not know what to do. But boy, did my gardens look the best that year that they've ever looked, because that was what he could do. Also, they may not understand what's going on. My daughter did not bring up for months to me, she said months later, Mom, if you do become pregnant again, can you not drink any more hot drinks? She thought that drinking tea poured directly onto the baby's head and was part of the problem. And so trying to let the siblings be able to talk about what they're thinking. Grandparents are worried about their son or daughter. They've lost their grandchild, and so they're grieving that, and they're worried about their children. And so grandparents have a special thing. And friends and extended family don't know what to do or say. And some will ignore the loss. Others, not knowing what to say, will say the wrong things, platitudes, minimizing the loss, cliches, and other hurtful words that make additional trauma to the already traumatized couple. Families need emotional support. The first thing you can do is acknowledge the loss. So when people call me and they've had a loss, a lot of times I'll just say, I am so sorry about the loss of your baby. And then they're going to cry because no one has said that to them yet. And we're going to take some time. I'm going to say, it's okay. Take your time. I'm here when you're ready to talk. And I'll just sit on the phone because no one has considered it a real loss. And so that's the first thing you need to do is, I'm so sorry about the loss of your baby. Listen to each parent's worries without judgment. They're going to have all kinds of worries. Some may be rational, some may be irrational. Just listen. Just listen to those. Don't stifle his or her tears, but let them grieve. And it's okay to let them see your sadness with a tear or two. I can tell you the people who cried when I lost my baby. I can tell you who they were. Now, my sisters and my mother, I never saw them shed a tear. They might have cried, but I never saw it. And those who did, I remember who did. They acknowledged that my child was truly a child. He was truly a loss. And And so it's really important that you know it's okay to shed a tear or two. And don't try to make the couple feel better. That's not going to help them. You know, they say that grief is the price we pay for love. So if you take away their grief, you take away their ability to love because they aren't paying that price for love. And so it's really important to let that couple sit in their sadness and ask the baby's name and call the baby by name. Always ask if they've named the baby and promote that they name the baby. Because, you know, like I believe my babies are saints in heaven, and I pray and I ask my babies to pray for us every day. My children, the 3 children I've lost are Raphael, Michael, and Gabriel. And so, it just happened. I lost 3. I named the first one Raphael, and I just kept going with the archangels. So it's important to have these babies to call these babies by name, and it was really a great support when you would hear someone mention a baby by name. So Elizabeth Edwards has a quote, and she says, "If you're afraid to mention the loss of somebody's baby and call them by name because you think you're going to remind that family member that they've lost a baby, they didn't forget. You're not going to make them sad. What you're reminding them of is that you remembered that they lived, and that is a great, great gift. And so please call the baby by name." So the question asked was, will it cause guilt upon the family if you ask them if they've named their baby? Well, hopefully not. Hopefully not. At first they may like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think about naming my baby. And so there might be a little bit of that at first, but then you give them that hope of, well, you know, you have this great intercessor. Let's call upon this great intercessor. Why don't you go discuss with your husband what the name of this baby should be so that you know who to call upon for intercession? That's what I would do. Understand that going back to work for this family is not easy. And when you have a baby who has passed, you don't get maternity leave. So can you imagine this? You know, you've lost a baby, maybe even at full term, and you get no time off work to go through this. Most places do not give time off work, and so it's especially hard. Of course, we all know that men and women mourn differently. I discussed a little bit about that. Men try to be strong for their wives, and sometimes she just needs him to be, you know, real with her because she already is missing a person to nurture, and she wants to do some nurturing for him too. Listen to the birth story no one wants to hear. So I always say, you know, like guys have their stories, right? Either they, you know, this really cool story of how they served in the military or how they, you know, did this great sports thing or some wonderful brave story that men have. But our brave story is our birth story. That's the bravest thing that we do as women. And we would sit there and bore you all day with all of our birth stories of all of our kids. And we feel free to do that, right? But no one wants to hear the story of a baby who's died. And so listen to their story. Ask them their story. Ask about that birth. Find out, you know, how did that birth go for you? Because it takes a lot of bravery to bear a child. It's very painful. It's very hard on the body. But to bear a child who has passed takes a lot of bravery. And find a couple who's experienced a pregnancy loss to meet with a grieving couple at the parish level or parish family level. That's really important to do too. And find a support group or organization online or in your area and send the family the information. We do have online support at Heaven's Gain Ministries. We're hoping to bring back in-person support soon. And I will talk to you about our advocates for parents of perinatal loss that I'm hoping to get into every single parish. So we all know about trauma. Trauma is an event that is extraordinary and deprecating. As our reality is contradicted and the it impacts us violently and we seem shattered. Our everyday beliefs are radically changed, and the hole that is left is our loss. So I have this picture of 9/11. So when 9/11 happened, I had a 2-week-old baby. I was literally nursing my child, watching the TV when the second plane hit. My husband worked for GE, and he had told me that GE was number 5 on the list when we were attacked. So Tower 1 was attacked, Tower 2 was attacked, Flight 93 landed in Pennsylvania, and the Pentagon was attacked, and he was a GE. So I'm sitting here with my 6th live birth, holding her, nursing her, all these kids, worrying about my husband. 9/11 and that whole situation put tremendous trauma on me. Every time I would see a plane in the sky, I would just watch it and see where it was going from that point on for many, many years, because it was a serious trauma to me. Some people are in car wrecks and they can't get back and drive again for a very long time because it's very traumatic for them. Pregnancy loss is the most traumatic thing I've ever been through, and that's true for many families. And so it will leave a hole that will affect our values, beliefs, our images, and our reality. Identifying responses or expressions during the trauma of losing a baby, there are physical symptoms. Literally, there are physical things that happen to a woman because her hormones are dramatically cut off quickly. There are physical symptoms. There's denial, where she's like, no, I just felt my baby move. Nope, it's not dead. I just felt the baby move. There's nothing wrong here. There's shock, and there's profound sadness and grief. So because of all these things, there is a lack of concentration and a lot of anxiety. And there's guilt. The accuser will accuse them. I have never met a couple who wasn't under attack of the devil, because, he attacked Jesus after 40 days in the desert when he was at his physical weakest. He attacked him before he went on the cross in the Garden of Gethsemane. He will attack these families when they are at their weakest point, and this is their weakest point. And so they will find any reason to blame themselves. And I just recently heard about a doctor who, what he does is he goes in when somebody has lost a baby and says to the mother, what did you do to cause the death? So she will tell him, and he will say, nope, that didn't cause it. Tell me another one. What did you do? Tells him, no, that wasn't it. And so know that that's one of the things you can do, is to say, are you blaming yourself for this? Do you feel like there's guilt that you caused this, so that you can stop that lies of the devil, because that's so very important. And there's going to be anger and blame. Some people are mad at God. Some people are mad at the world. Some people feel that they need to blame someone, and some people will stuff their anger until later. There are post-loss traumas, and many of these are associated with PTSD. First one I want to talk about is 40% of women have a physical ache in their arms. They literally ache to hold something. And so women will be found walking around the house with a 5-pound bag of flour, because it's called empty arm syndrome. It's actually a medical thing. And so they will walk around with something, or husbands will find their wives holding baby dolls and think that they've gone nuts. But they actually physically have this ache in their arms that they need to hold a baby. This is a survey from 512 women that we have done through babylosssurvey.com. And of the 512, this is the statistics. 40% worry about their living children all the time. They're constantly worried. They say, this baby died, so my children can die. My children can die. They can die anytime. And so they have this fear of losing one of their living children. 48% have flashbacks to the event, remembering what happened. 50% have nightmares, where they're trying to save their baby or something like that, and they can't do it. 50% have changes in relationships, and with a strong marriage that involves God, that relationship can actually become better after the loss of a baby. But as we know, many relationships break up after pregnancy loss. 54% have intrusive, upsetting memories of the birth, and 55% have increased irritability and outburst of anger. 61% have difficulty concentrating, and 66% have difficulty falling or staying asleep. 70% have a loss of interest of activities or life in general. Some women, you can't get them to get out of bed. They just won't get out of bed. 73% feel uneasy around pregnant people. When you'll probably get this question, Father, I've been invited to my sister-in-law's shower and I don't think I can go. And, do you think I should go? And here's the deal. When women lose a baby, it's not that they're not happy for somebody else who had a baby. They don't understand why their baby was taken. But they know that if they see this, they might cry and ruin the whole shower. And so it's not like they're not happy for that person, but they just don't want to ruin it for them, if that makes sense. And also, when you lose a baby, you would not believe how you notice pregnant women around. Like, you would think the whole world is pregnant. And we hear this all the time, as it says, 73%. And 75% feel like life is divided into two categories. This is the person I was before I lost the baby, and this is the person I am now. And it's true, it changes you, but it can change you for the good. You can become a more compassionate, loving person. And many husbands will say, I miss my wife. I miss who I was married to. And she misses herself too. She misses being the fun-loving person that she was. But she learns that new self, and he will learn her new self. 77% feel detached from others, and 78% fear losing a future child. And that's a real fear. And when you lose a baby, you have a 10% higher chance of losing a subsequent pregnancy. And so a lot of people think that that's irrational, but it's not irrational at all. And so this fear of losing a future child is very real. And the child after the storm of a loss is called your rainbow baby. We're taking back the rainbow. And so that's a rainbow baby. And so that's a rainbow pregnancy you're seeing up there on them. A rainbow baby is a baby that comes after the storm of losing a baby. And in general, having a rainbow baby is the second most healing thing that happens to a mother. A rainbow baby never, ever takes the place of the baby who was lost. But it does fill some of those needs, like that empty arm syndrome, or being able to nurture a child. It fills some of those needs that were left unfilled. But with this rainbow pregnancy, the joy of being pregnant, when you're no longer feeling terribly sick, is robbed from you. There's no joy. It's all fear factor. It's a constant fear factor. You're worried all the time that you're going to lose that baby. So say you're you're a sick person in the first trimester and you do have a good day, then you spend your whole good day worried that you've lost the baby because you feel better. And so, or, you don't feel your baby kick for 10 minutes and then you start freaking out. And so this is what happens with the rainbow baby. And so people need support with that rainbow baby pregnancy. And parents tend to be hyper vigilant of that pregnancy, especially dads who have not properly mourned the child before. They I couldn't do anything for that child, but I am going to protect this child with everything I have inside of me. And so they become hyper vigilant of that baby. And it's not unusual, actually, for mother's fertility to increase for 3 months following a miscarriage. Just something to know, because a lot of people were like, I can't take another loss. And I'm just kind of like, your fertility's increased. This is a great time to try, actually. So, but that's up to the couple, but I like them to know that. So if you put all these traumas together, this is huge. This is an enormous amount of trauma that families go through. So it's not a small thing. It's a big deal. They do suffer PTSD. And what sets those things off? Well, triggers. A trigger is something that sets off a memory, tape, or flashback transporting the person back to the event of his or her original trauma. And triggers are very personal. Different things trigger different people, and the survivor may begin to avoid situations and stimuli that he or she thinks triggered the flashback. All senses can trigger a memory. So it's important to remember all senses. So there was a song that someone sent to me after I came back from the hospital. And when I hear that song, that always triggers a memory. But now it triggers joy. But at first, it would trigger sadness. And months of the year, so when you're coming up on when the baby was due or when the baby was born a year later, all those dates tend to set you off, or I knew the baby was going to be born on the 7th of the month. So the 7th of each month, I think about the fact that that baby wasn't born. Baby pictures, finding maternity clothes that you're no longer wearing, all these things can be triggers, and even smells. So when we lost Gabriel, they said, hey, you probably should pick a smell that reminds you of him. And you do want to be reminded at times, like you want to spend time in the memory, and so it's good to pull those things out. But sometimes you don't want to be reminded, right? And so my husband went to the store and he said, I'm trying to pick out a smell, and I picked out this wild rose. And I said, that's fine, I don't know. So he picked out this wild rose smell, and so we have it, and I can put it on something and smell it and trying to go back to the situation when I'm ready to spend time in that memory. But when you're not ready to spend time in that memory, it can be upsetting. So here I am, like 4 months later, and I am doing the dishes, and I am sobbing, and I don't know why I'm crying. And he's like, why are you crying? I have no idea. I don't know why I'm crying. I don't know why I'm crying. The dish soap was wild rose scented dish soap that we didn't know. I didn't even associate it with the loss, but our senses are so strong around our losses that it really can affect you. Also, the death preparations, funeral and burial and grief are different for a baby than with other deaths. So when grandma dies, everybody gets together. There's usually some food involved. You sit around, you eat, you talk. You tell stories about grandma and what she did and funny things she did and sweet things she did. And you just tell stories, and you feel good about grandma. And you feel good about each other, and you feel loved. And you say, well, okay, you're going to do a reading, you're going to do offertory, you're going to be a pallbearer, and everybody gets their little jobs. And then when you go to the church, there's people who love grandma, there's people who loved you, it's sad, but it's still kind of a love fest at a funeral, because you're seeing so many people that loved her and love you. But when you lose a baby, it's just you and your husband usually. There's usually no one there. No one knows what to say or do. And you're suffering that alone. And even if you do have a church service, it's usually empty. An archbishop has asked that his priests do masses for those babies that are lost. And if we can have a microphone, Father Haft, if you could explain something.
Yes, I've experienced a couple funerals now for children who have died before baptism. One was a 6-year-old, and then I also have had a funeral for a baby that was miscarried. And so I simply used, out of the Roman Missal and out of the Order of Christian Funeral, the rituals for children who have died before baptism. And then I adapted the homily appropriately for the grieving parents and the family and friends that gathered. So the church does generously provide the appropriate rituals so that we can minister to the needs of families in their great time of grief.
So both parents need support. Mothers especially need to avoid feeling alone. I mean, that tends to be the way the devil gets to us, is our feelings of being abandoned in women. And so she needs to not feel alone. Pregnancy loss is not acknowledged by society. It's not considered a big deal, but it is a big deal. No one asks how the dad is feeling. If a mom makes a big deal out of her loss, she's deemed as wanting attention and in need of psychological help. Mothers do not know that other mothers may feel the same way or have the same symptoms that they have. And so it's important to let them know what are normal symptoms and when things need help. Jesus wept, the shortest verse in the Bible from John 11. You know, I always think about this verse and I think, he knew he was going to raise him in 10 minutes, like he'd been away for days. Why would he cry when he knows he's going to raise him in 10 minutes? And I just think it was example. I just think it was example. He just wanted to give us the example of it's normal to cry for those you love when they die. And so I say that to all of my clients, like, this is normal. Jesus wept when he knew he was going to raise him in 10 minutes, you know, or whatever. It's just, he wept. And so grief and weeping are normal when you lose someone you love. So it's important to know resources and to be prepared to have referrals. There may be support groups in your area. Like I said, at Heaven's Gain, we have support groups online. And it's a great way to help mothers and fathers to heal. Unfortunately, there's a number of support groups that are out there that do not allow you to discuss your faith. We do allow that. I think if I did not believe that my children were in heaven and I would meet them someday, I would go crazy. If I just thought they were decaying in the ground and nothing, you know, no reunification, I think I would go crazy. And so it's an important part for those of us with faith to be able to talk about our faith when we talk about our losses. And so be really cautious about who you refer to if you're referring to a support group. As I said, we have these certified advocates for parents of perinatal loss, which we have the acronym APPLE, and they can be very helpful. They've usually experienced a pregnancy loss and are at the point where they can guide a mother who's lost a baby recently. Also, parish companion couples are very important too. So if you could establish some in your parishes or your parish families. So now I'm going to go over some do's and don'ts. And as you see, the don'ts are underlined right now. So don't say you can have more babies. Like, you can't replace that child. So it's not a good thing to say you can have more babies. Don't say there might have been something wrong with the baby. That just goes with the argument of, you know, we should abort the babies who have something wrong with them. And also, that says that parent wouldn't have cared for a child whose baby has something wrong. My first child I lost, Raphael, actually had his intestines on the outside of him. Well, I would have been at the doctor's office every single day or the hospital every single day to take care of him. It didn't matter that there was something wrong with him. I loved him. Don't say be grateful for the children you have, because obviously, if you're saying that, and then you hear that all the time, we moms who've lost babies, of course I'm grateful for the children I have. But that doesn't mean I don't miss the one that has gone on. Don't say, I know how you feel. I don't think guys would say that very often, but women will. And I can't even say that, you know, to someone who's had a pregnancy loss at the same point as me. I don't know how they feel, even if they had exactly the same losses as me. Every person feels differently. And don't say it was God's will. We're going to go over this again, but most people do not understand permissive will versus perfect direct will. They don't understand it, and this is not going to be the time that they're going to understand that. This is not going to be the time to help them understand that. So also some don'ts. Don't offer cliches or platitudes because they minimize the loss. You know, like some people say God needed another angel in heaven. No, he could have created one if he needed one. So no, that's not right. Everything happens for a reason. You don't want to hear that. I understand how you feel. We just went over. It was meant to be. At least you didn't get to know the baby. Just really insulting. You're so strong. I could never handle this. And you're thinking, I can't handle it either. I can't handle it either. God is holding me every step of this way. I am not standing on my own 2 feet right now. I guess it's good it happened now. instead of when they were 2 or when you were 9 months or something like that. And be thankful for the children you have, we've already discussed. And God would never give you more than you could handle with him. Everybody always misses the with him, right? So yes, he did give me more than I could handle. And yes, he is handling it, So do you know that silence is okay? If you're just sitting there and you're not saying anything, that's good. That's okay. They know you're there for them. Create an emotionally safe environment. Guide them through the process, which we're going to talk about a little bit more. And as I said, ask the baby's name. Direct eye contact is really important. And again, I can't emphasize this enough. Say, I am sorry for your loss, acknowledging the loss, and validate their feelings. Now let's go to some do's. Let them know you've been thinking about them and praying for them. Like, drop them an email, drop them a text. Hey, I've been thinking and praying for you. When you're ready to talk, I'm here for you. Ask, how are you to both the mother and father? That's really important. With great sincerity, ask that. How are you? How have you been feeling? Offer assistance, but it should be specific. Like, would you like the bereavement committee to work with you on a funeral? Would you like the moms group to set up some meals for you? Be very specific, not just, let me know if there's anything I can do, but be specific because they can't even think what they need. They're just not in that situation. Keep communication open and check on the couple for weeks and even months. Space it out the further out you go. Watch for spiritual attacks on the couple. As I said, there will be spiritual attacks. It's unreal. I'll tell you, one of my spiritual attacks was I went to church on All Souls Day, and my baby's name was not up there. And it just broke my heart. Like, how could my baby's name be missed up there? And then I heard from Father Ron, actually, that Father Durger had talked to another couple in our parish, and he said, I can put your baby's name up there on All Souls Day, but your baby's not in purgatory. It can't be in purgatory. There's no debt to pay. And so that would be silly. Where we would put your baby's name would be on All Saints Day. And that was such a healing thing for me to hear. That was so beautiful. So just watch for all the little attacks that can happen. And offer a funeral. I mean, even if it's a small little baby, it's really a baby. If we really believe it's a baby, offer a funeral. And there are funerals for babies without baptism and for babies with baptism, both. And let them know the church is teaching for burial and cremation. So with our first child, we lost him on December 23rd. And we called the church and said, hey, left a message. Nobody's answering because it's right before Christmas. We lost a baby, and we don't know what to do church-wise. And we actually went and buried the baby the same day because we didn't want to have the baby around on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. So we went and buried the baby. And then we got a call a week later saying, hey, we heard you lost a baby. And we were like, well, yeah, but he's already buried. And then we got in trouble for burying without having a priest or deacon there. And just let the family know what is expected of them. But this education starts before the delivery. It's really good if you get these families to come to you as soon as they find out there is no heartbeat. Instruct the family where to find guidance. And I would tell you to tell them to come to Heaven's Gain Ministries until you get your advocates for parents of perinatal loss at your parishes, which I really hope you do. So instruct them where to go and how to be prepared, how to create a birth plan, whether it's a miscarriage at home or a late miscarriage or stillbirth in the hospital, or a baby being born with a poor-prenatal diagnosis. So I am going to talk to you right now about when you go to the hospital. And I'm going to come back later to the after finding out they found out no heartbeat. If you are just called into the hospital, you didn't get a chance to help prepare them beforehand, and you get called into the hospital, I want you to be prepared. Okay? These babies do not look like the beautiful fetal development pictures that we see. They don't look the same. And some moms are going to see beauty and see, even though this baby looks like he's died, this mom's going to see beauty, and that's all they're going to see. And some moms are going to see, he looks like he was tortured as he died. He looks like he suffered. And you don't know what you're going to walk into. And so when you come in there, the last thing that they need is for you to be upset when you see this baby's picture, what this baby looks like. And so I'm going to show you, and if you don't want to look, just close your eyes right now, because I'm going to show you what some babies look like. And so, because I don't want you to be shocked when you see these babies when you go in. Because that negative reaction to their appearance can add an additional trauma to what they're going through. What you need to do is, when you look at the baby, is to find a beautiful aspect of that baby's appearance and comment on that. Like, look at all 5 fingers and all 10 fingers and all 10 toes. Oh, look at him. He looks like he would have been really strong. Something like that. Comment on that baby. And make sure that that baby's body is being treated with respect. So be prepared. They're not going to look like these beautiful pictures that you're going to see. So in the first trimester, this is a baby lost in the first trimester, and you can see how he looks here in a hand and how he looks in the vessel. We recommend placing these babies in a vessel because the parents can get better pictures. They can see the fingers move. They can hold the baby without possibly damaging the baby. And I can talk to you more about that later, but we recommend that these babies be placed in a vessel. It really improves how the baby looks. So those are all babies in the first trimester, so you have an idea what you're looking at. Babies in the first trimester tend to be close to skin color, and so they are usually pretty easy to look at. In the second trimester, it's different. There can be skin issues, redness, deterioration, problems with skeletal structure, and fetal abnormalities. So these are pretty normal looking babies, but they are what they look like in the second trimester. And how I explain it to my families are, in that second trimester, that baby goes from 4 inches to 14 inches. He's going to grow that much, 10 inches in 3 months. And that's a huge amount of growth. In order to grow that much, he needs a lot of blood flow through him. And he's not meant to be outside the womb. And so his skin is actually translucent at this point. And so because his skin is translucent and he's had all this blood flow, you're actually going to see the baby looking red, because the redness is that blood that was flowing underneath the skin from when he was alive and growing inside of you. And so when you see that redness, remember that that blood is a sign of life, not a sign of death. And so this is what a baby looks like in the second trimester. You can see the top picture is that baby after being born, very red, very, very red. You can see through the skin. The second picture is the same baby, but just in a ball canning jar. Really makes a big difference in how the baby looks. The baby the redness is gone away, the pinkness shows up, and he looks a lot better. And this is another baby at 21 weeks. You can see that baby in the top picture, how red he is. But once placed, that's that same baby placed in the water. And so that's why we really promote the water. See the difference in that picture there? So what we try to do is recreate the womb environment. We just offer it to families. They can do what they want, but they need to know. In the third trimester, these babies are usually, pictures are taken in black and white or in sepia, because the baby's skin tone is off, usually kind of purplish, but the deterioration tends to happen right around the orifices, around the mouth, around the eyes. And so these babies aren't the bright red color, but they do have deterioration happening around the orifices. So when you see these babies, be prepared to look for the beauty. Look for the beauty and comment on the beauty. So during the hospital stay, it's important to have advocacy available. One of the first things we said is, could someone please bring in the Eucharist, because we will need all the strength we can get. And so these families really need this help. Also in the hospital, one of the things we promote is that family create as many memories as they can of that child, to see their child, touch, hold their child, possibly bathe their child. If they're in the third trimester, they can dress them, to caress their child, kiss, name, to rock their baby, and even dance. So I recently had a father with a baby with a poor-prenatal diagnosis, and one of the things I said is, would you like a father-daughter dance? He said, I really like that. So dancing kind of sounds crazy until you think about father-daughter dances. And then we'll try to create as many memories as possible, because this is all you'll have left, memorabilia. So pictures, according to our surveys, over 99% of our families said their pictures are some of the most valuable things that they have, and they wish they had more. They love the footprints, the handprints, baby blankets, baby cap, locks of hair, baby bracelet, a fetal death certificate, which you can get in the state of Ohio, measurements, and baptismal certificate if that baby was born alive. Those are all really important things for that family to keep. So we believe in the corporal work of mercy to bury the dead. And I got to put my glasses back on again. So it says, the corpses of human embryos and fetuses, whether they've been deliberately aborted or not, must be respected, just as the remains of other human beings. So it's very interesting here in the state of Ohio that they have passed laws that the aborted babies in the state of Ohio must be treated with respect. But no one remembered the miscarried babies. No one remembered them when we made some laws here in the state of Ohio. Also, the bodies of the dead must be treated with respect and charity, in faith and hope of the resurrection. The burial of the dead is a corporal work of mercy. It honors the children of God, who are temples of the Holy Spirit. And so I'm going to just go through all this. But at the bottom, I'm jumping to Andrew. Andrew Sodergen has a writing on hope and healing, miscarriage, and the dignity of the human body. It's a very good read. And since you have in your folder all these slides, you'll have this information. But it's also on our website to understand the importance of burial and the dignity of the human body, even with a small miscarriage. Burying these babies gives peace of mind to the mom and dad. Hospitals have group burials or group cremations, some of them. So in our city, Good Sam and Christ, if you allow them, they will bury your children in group burials. And so we actually provide, at Heaven's Gate, we provide the vault for Good Sam's burials. They will cremate the babies. They will mark who's in there, and then they will be buried. Where other hospitals, as I said, these babies are placed in medical waste if they're miscarried, not if they're stillborn. Yes?
What about the involvement of funeral homes?
Okay, so Father has asked about the involvement of funeral homes. And so some funeral homes in the state of Ohio, because you need a fetal death certificate, a funeral home has to become involved for burial in the state of Ohio, because you have to get this fetal death certificate to be buried in a cemetery. And so they have to be involved in some ways, and some will just write out your fetal death certificate and you're good to go. While others, some funeral homes will charge nothing for their services, and other funeral homes will charge thousands and thousands of dollars for their services. Absolutely ridiculous. There's a funeral home I know, there was a baby who was lost at about 20 weeks. We actually provided the casket for them, and the funeral home still charged an extra $4,000 for their service. So yeah, every funeral home is different. Thank you for that question. As I said, babies less than 20 weeks can be placed in medical waste if not claimed for burial. Usually the Catholic hospitals don't do this, but I'm not sure so much about the D&C surgeries. You can request your baby even from a D&C surgery. And for those of you who don't know, the D&C is the same as the first trimester abortion. The D&E is the second trimester abortion, and they dismember the babies when they take them out. And so let me change that. It is the same surgery, but it is on a dead baby. So it is, so parents really get really worried because they'll say, and this is another good thing for you, they'll say they're going to do everything they do for an abortion. Or they're going to give me those pills that they do for abortion. Like, I don't want that. And I say to them, your kitchen knife can be used to make your family dinner. It can be used to do wonderful things to serve your family. It also could be used to kill someone. These drugs are meant for miscarriage and stillbirth. If someone uses them immorally for abortion, that's on them. That's not on you if you have to use the same drugs. That's not on you at all. This is the proper use of those drugs. And if you have somebody who's going to be taking this baby out of state, or they're bringing this baby back into state, the laws from other states can be found on our website, heavensgain.org/state laws. So as I said, Ohio has a Parents Grieving Act in 2008 that gives the parents the right to their children at less than 20 weeks, with the exception of abortion. So they made sure that exception was in there. And years ago, babies left less than 30 weeks were left at the hospital, and many people have no idea where those babies are. I get this question all the time from women who are in their 70s and 80s who say, I lost my baby at the hospital. I was 26 weeks. I was 28 weeks along. I don't know what happened to my baby, but it was left at the hospital. And all I say to them is, even if I know they might have been placed in medical waste or whatever, I don't know, but I know there's a chance. I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say, I do know that a number of hospitals will bury the remains of babies who are lost. And I just leave it at that, because there's no reason to go further on with that. And some hospitals give parents months to claim their baby's remains, and others only give days. I had a client who was in New York or somewhere on the East Coast, and she called me and she said she went into preeclampsia and to HELP syndrome, which is right before eclampsia, and it's very dangerous for the mother. And so she was really out of it for about 2 or 3 days. When she woke up, she has to hold her baby, and they said, your baby has died. She said, well, I'd still like to hold my baby. And they said, you had 48 hours to claim your baby's remains. It's been more than 48 hours. You can't, your baby's gone. So all states really need to have some laws that give parents more rights. Some funeral homes will have parents pay for the casket. Others will give the casket away for free. And so the problem here is Dad wasn't able to do anything for his baby. He wasn't able to provide anything for his child. And so he wants to provide something for his child. And I appreciate that funeral homes will give a casket away. It will usually be one of the cheapest caskets. But I also appreciate the fact that a lot of dads want to buy the casket, or they want to make the casket, because that's their role as a provider. And so I actually promote that funeral homes don't give away the casket unless the family needs it. And we also have funds for families who can't afford to have a casket or an urn, where we will donate it to them if they are in need. All they have to do is write a letter to one of our donors. So we need to provide proper burial or cremation for these babies. We have little tiny caskets, we have urns, and we have bigger caskets, all the way through like 1 year old. These are our tiny caskets that we have for miscarriage. You saw some out in the other room. So we have little bitty caskets for miscarriage. If a funeral home offers a casket for a family, it's usually one of the ones on the bottom row. And that's all they would offer. We also have Amish-made caskets and larger caskets, and we have a number of urns that are exclusive to us. There is this place in Bakersfield, California called Our Lady of Guadalupe Shrine, and I want this everywhere in this country. But anyway, they have the ideal answer concerning burial of miscarried or stillborn babies. This is a baby mausoleum. And all around the outside are little crypts. And inside is a place to pray, reflect, grieve, and heal. But all around that outside edge are little crypts for babies. And I just would love, love, love to see this. And it's actually a way of, so most of the time when mom dies, she says, I want that baby moved and put that baby with me. And so it actually is kind of, can be reused. It can be reused and reused. For when mom dies, you could place another baby in there later on. In Cincinnati, we have a number of cemeteries. I only mentioned a few here. There's Gate of Heaven, which buries for free. They have a gorgeous, gorgeous area for miscarried and stillborn babies. Miscarried are on one side, stillborn are on the other. All you have to do is buy the marker. They even have these boxes to place the baby's remains in. It's not a regular casket, but there's boxes. Old and New St. Joe usually charge about $100, $150. There's Baltimore Cemetery. Spring Grove, for a tiny, tiny baby, will charge $1,000 to bury that baby. And there's many church cemeteries. You guys all know that. Somebody was supposed to be here from the northern part of the Archdiocese, but I don't know where they're at. So I mentioned Morgan's Place. It is a place, and they have burial for babies. They have a cemetery, but Morgan's Place is a specific part in the cemetery for burial of babies. So I'm going to do my personal testimony and tell you my story. So this is the story of my 10th pregnancy. So I was 16 weeks pregnant, and our pregnancy center said, hey, we just got our first ultrasound donated. We're really excited. We need models. And I said, okay, I'll be a model, another ultrasound. I'm all in on that. So as I'm walking in, the baby starts kicking. And he's excited he's getting his picture taken or something. I don't know. He's all excited, and he's kicking all over. And I lay on the table, and he is moving, and they're just moving that wand all over. They're like, he's all over the place. I said, oh, my gosh, this is my 10th kid. I'm going to be too exhausted to chase this kid because he's just all over the place. And so a week later, I'm at a parade, and I start swelling. And so the next day, it was Memorial Day. And so the next day I called the doctor's office, and I was like, yeah, I'm getting older. They're just gonna tell me I can't eat salt anymore, but okay. So I went in, and I expected them to tell me quit eating salt. And they couldn't find the baby's heartbeat on the Doppler. And I was just like, you know what? That happened last time. You just gotta kind of get over here because this one's a little hider. And so she goes over there, and she can't find it. She goes, you know, it's a new Doppler. Let me come back. So she comes back after a while, and she says, we want you to go across the hall and get an ultrasound. And when they do the ultrasound, I could see there was no heartbeat. They didn't even tell me. I said, I can see no heartbeat. I was clueless. I thought he was fine. He was kicking like crazy that week. They said he had just died. And I just was in shock. The only thing I said was, I guess I'm in the 3% that loses their baby in the second trimester. That's my only words. And I just walked out to the front desk, and she goes, would you like to call someone? I said, I should call someone. I'll call my husband. So I called my husband, and that's when I cried, when I had to say the words, the baby has died. And I drove myself home. We went to the second ultrasound, and they said 90% chance that they were right on the first. I said, there's a 10% chance he's going to live, but he wasn't. And all they told me was to be at the hospital at 8 a.m. No one told me what I was going to be looking at. No one told me how red my baby was going to be. No one told me they're going to ask you, why are you here? And you're going to have to say the words, I'm here to deliver my dead baby. No one told me how to make memories. No one told me that it's best to be prepared. No one said, if you wait a little while and you mentally prepare yourself, the labor and delivery goes faster. No one prepared us. We just went in, and I was in a state of shock. But before we went in, we left that ultrasound, and we went from funeral home to funeral home to funeral home, because my husband, being the good provider that he is, wanted to provide a casket for our son. And we went to 4 funeral homes and 2 cemeteries, and everybody said there's no such thing for a casket for an 8-inch long baby. It doesn't exist. And we said, what? What do you mean? People lose babies. Like, what do you mean? No, there's no such thing. Nobody makes them. So then we started making phone calls. But everywhere we went, the doors were closed. I'm going to deliver my baby tomorrow. I'm going to deliver an 8-inch long baby. And I'm going to have to leave him to be placed in medical waste? Are you kidding me? That cannot be. I will not tolerate that. So we called around to more funeral homes, and finally one said, go to the World Market and get yourself a chest. So we went to the World Market and we got ourselves a chest. Then I went home that night and tried to sew some type of linen to put in there. And the next day we went into the hospital with this little chest that we placed our baby in after delivery. And that was wrong. That was wrong that no one prepared us. It was wrong that no one had something to bury him in. And before we buried him, we didn't have any way to protect the box, so we took 2 boxes of press and seal and wrapped it around the box so that somehow he would be protected. And we buried our son, and that's our family that day. And it was a very sad time. And my husband, being the fixer that he is, said, this shouldn't have happened to us. It shouldn't happen to anybody. We should start making caskets. And I'm like, we just put our kid in the ground. You've got to be kidding me. No. No. And then in January of that year, I heard the Lord say to me, you know, in general, the only way the woman who's had an abortion will be able to mourn and heal is if those with miscarriage and stillbirth are allowed to mourn and heal first. And I said, okay, what do you want me to do? Nothing. Hear nothing. Every day. Okay, what do you want me to do? Nothing. From January on, then on April 17th, I heard Father Pavone was in town. And so I went to the hotel he was going to be at because I was downtown with my son anyway. And I'm sitting in the hotel waiting to see if he comes in. If he comes in, I meant to ask him about what I'm supposed to do about this. I'm sitting there, and I'm like, it's a beautiful day. And you're sitting here waiting to ask Father Pavone what God meant by that. You know, just go find out if he's already checked in. So I go to the front desk, and I said, is Father Pavone already checked in? And they said, yeah, he's checked in. Here, I'll ring him up for you, and handed me the phone. And I was like, what? Oh, hello, Father Pavone? Yeah, the Lord has told me that I'm supposed to do something about those who have miscarriage and stillbirth. He goes, you know, there's a real need for burial of these babies. I said, my husband was right, crud. And I said, okay, well, thank you, Father. And anyway, so that's how Heaven's Game was born. After that, we researched for a year, and then later on we had services. And the services part is my part that I love. So anyway, that is us back in 2006. And that is my family, well, a lot of my family from 5 years ago. You can see how they've changed. So the girl with the curly hair is the same one who straightens her hair as the bride there. So anyway. After the family has lost the baby, we need to inform them how to find the latest research on preventing pregnancy loss. Star Legacy Foundation is an organization that I try to go to their stillbirth summit every couple of years to find out the latest on pregnancy loss. There's a doctor called Barbara Toppin. She has a book called 1 in 4. And in this book, she talks about how 1 in 4 pregnancies are lost. But if you test these families for blood clotting conditions and you treat these blood clotting problems, that she's changed it to 1 in 12 in her practice. I will repeat our mission because I do want you to understand what we do. We provide for the physical, emotional, and spiritual needs of families experiencing pregnancy loss before, during, and after the delivery of their precious baby. So now I'd like to tell you a little bit more about Heaven's Gain Ministries. We try to perform the spiritual work of mercy for our clients through instruction, giving advice, consolation, and comforting those and family and friends who are grieving the loss of a baby. And we also do the corporal work of mercy of burying the dead. We make sure that there's caskets for babies of every single gestational size, from the tiniest little baby all the way through full term for babies who have even survived birth. Like those babies with poor-prenatal diagnosis, some of them live a number of hours and some of them live a couple of months. So we want to make sure that there are burial items for them or urns for their babies. So after no heartbeat but before delivery, our Heaven's Gate advocates for parents of perinatal loss, our apples, prepare families for the birth of their baby, whether it's a delivery in the hospital or a miscarriage at home. Our apples guide our clients to make the best choices as they fill out the birth plan together. And a birth plan is very important. And we answer the questions to the best of our ability, but we do not give any medical advice. We see our clients, they come in and they're panicked. They don't know what to do. And they leave empowered because they feel like, okay, I can handle this. I have some preparation. I'm going to treasure this time with my baby. I am not at a total loss right now. I have some knowledge. I have the ability to make the most of this time with my baby. And so they leave empowered. So before they would have a delivery at home, we will talk to them about that delivery at home. We will send them home with this miscarriage kit. And the miscarriage kit includes a specimen collector, because women lose blood when they have a baby. And so the amount of blood lost needs to be counted so that they can tell the doctor the amount of blood lost. Inside of it, we have a collapsible colander that can be placed in there so that the baby never touches the toilet water. And can you imagine if you're out and about and somebody has a flushable toilet, an automatic flush toilet, going around and trying to grab your baby? How devastating is that? And so we have something to place in the toilet. And as the mother passes things, we have a squirt bottle to rinse it off so she can discern what's a placenta, what's the baby, what's clots. And so she can figure out what's there. We have a baby development card, which shows the baby at different stages of development. And we have that in English and in Spanish, so she can know, okay, I'm this many weeks along, this is what I should be looking for. We have a blood measurement chart in there so she can measure all of her blood loss so she can let the doctor know to keep her safe. And then we have pamphlets and brochures that are also printable on our website. And the brochures are in the back of your folder for the loss of a baby so that they're in their healing process. So it's important for us to create this birth plan. Okay, what is your plan? A lot of people now will take the medicine to induce the delivery. And so we'll say, okay, so it's always best to have someone with you when this is happening. You know, is your husband off this weekend? If you're going to take that medicine, maybe Friday evening is a good time to take that medicine so that you have somebody with you during this process. Or when can your mom come over so she can help you through this process? And so it's important that they have a plan. Okay, this is the plan. And we talk to them about, ask your doctor how much blood loss is too much loss, so we can write it down. Okay, she's lost this amount of blood. We don't know what to do. Oh, okay, she called the doctor, and the doctor said this is the amount of blood loss that when you need to come into the hospital. And so we're not only helping them to find the baby, find the placenta, but also to possibly save the mother's life because of knowing the amount of blood that is being lost. If they're going into the hospital, we'll sit down and prepare that family for that. So in your folder that you have, in the back section, there's a little card. So nobody tells you that when you're in the hospital that they're going to ask, you don't think about this, right? All of us, we don't think about it. When we go in the hospital, they say, why are you here? I'm here to have my knee looked at, whatever it is. But when you're there to come in and say, you're going to deliver a dead baby, to say the words, I'm here to deliver my dead baby, is really hard to choke out. So instead, we give them this little card. It says, sadly, I'm here to deliver my baby who has died. Please be mindful of the questions that you ask me. I will not be needing a pediatrician. So she's going to be asked when she walks in the hospital, why is she there? When she goes to registration, why is she there? She can show this again. And the registration people have a little box that they have to check off on who is your pediatrician. And it says right here. Like, that's another thing that can traumatize you, is to be asked who is your pediatrician, because you know you won't be needing one. And so this is really important that they have this card to bring to the hospital. So we will give them that card for that. Then we'll talk to them about the fact that they'll be going to labor and delivery. And some moms think that this is like torture, like you're going to bring me to where everybody's having healthy babies. And so we explain to them that that is the place where they have all the medical equipment to save your life if it comes to that. Because you need the people who specialize in this to be with you, who have the medical tools that specialize in what is going on with you to save your life if necessary. And so it's not a torture thing that they're doing, but a way to take care of you. And then we talk to them about that usually they'll put something on your door like wings or a teardrop, so that when the trash guy comes in to collect your trash or whatever, he doesn't say, "Hey, congratulations, what did you have?" But they'll know that this is a place of sorrow, a place of mourning, and to not come in all bubbly. And so that'll happen. Then we'll talk to them about how the labor will go, what medications are usually used. We'll let them know about that, so that, especially if some of the abortion type drugs are being used, so that we can stop that from being an additional trauma by telling them that this is the correct way of using that. And then we will talk to them about the delivery, and that babies prior to 20 weeks, it oftentimes just feels like you have to go to the bathroom. So be really careful when you get up to go to the bathroom, because the baby may fall out. We will talk to them about after the baby's born, what things do you want to do? These are questions that you don't want to get at that moment. So for instance, a lot of people will, they'll be offered to give a narcotic. But if they take a narcotic, they may not remember that period of time that they have with their child. And so we'll talk to them about, do you want a narcotic drug or do you want a non-narcotic? And we'll put that in the birth plan, that they would prefer a non-narcotic drug or whatever it is. We'll talk to them about when the baby's born. Do you want direct skin-to-skin contact, which is what most people do with a newborn baby? But this is a trauma, right? And so I will tell them the choices, but I always say I recommend having the nurse clean the baby up, wrapping the baby up in a blanket, and then giving the baby to the parents, so that the parents can slowly unwrap the baby, little by little, looking at their baby, so that they're not traumatized all at once at looking at their baby. So we'll talk to that, but whatever they want, we're going to write in the birth plan. Then we're going to talk to them about, some parents will be like, I don't even want to see it, I don't even want to see it. And then we'll talk to them about the advantages of seeing and holding, but whatever they choose to do, and we'll get it all written down in a birth plan. And then we'll talk about all the mementos we talked about footprints and handprints and bracelets and things like that. One of the things we recommend is, if they can, to put the pictures, everybody has phones now, but they used to have cameras, but put the pictures on a separate SD card, so that they're not looking at, Easter, Memorial Day, dead baby, 4th of July, when you're going through your pictures, so that they're just in one special place. And so we will prepare them for all that. And then if they want to talk about it beforehand, we can talk about disposition, meaning burial or cremation, afterwards. It depends where they're at. Usually by the time we finish, it usually takes about 2 hours to go through this whole process, about 3 if it's a baby with a poor prenatal diagnosis. Because with a poor prenatal diagnosis, we need to put all the things they want to do in order, because we don't know how long that baby's going to live. So with a stillbirth or a late miscarriage, we can say they want to do all these things. But with a poor prenatal diagnosis, we have to say they want to do these things in this order. So it takes a little bit longer. And we also talk about, in somebody with a poor prenatal diagnosis, about treasuring the time they have right now. So we had a client whose baby had anencephaly, and they were not going to live long after birth. And so I said, well, what did you want to do with your baby? Let's try and recreate those. And so she's like, well, I wanted to push my baby on a swing. Okay, you get on a swing, and you sit there, and your husband push you, and then write how your baby reacts. And well, I always want to see my baby eating ice cream. Well, how about you eat an ice cream and write down how your baby reacts? So pick out some things that you would like to do, and then write down how the baby reacts to each. And then he said, I wanted to take my kid on a four-wheeler. And I said, well, that's probably not going to work. But what we could do is we could lean her up against the four-wheeler while you rev it up and see how the baby reacts to the sound and the vibration. So, so we try to make as much of the time that they have right now until that birth. And then when the birth happens, we'll have the things in order. And so this preparation takes a long time, but there's no rush when somebody finds out that their baby has passed normally. There's lots of time. And so if they are all prepared and they know what's going to happen and they feel like they're at peace with it, instead of in the state of shock, not knowing what's going to happen, just scared to death, the labor and delivery generally goes much better. And so it's really important to prepare that family beforehand. That's where everybody has the trauma of losing their child. There's nothing you're going to do to take away that trauma. And you don't want to, because if you take away their grief, you take away their love, right? So, but you can take away all those additional traumas. If they know that that baby's going to be red when that baby's going to be born, you can take away that trauma and make that a beautiful thing, talking about life. If they know that the skin's going to be kind of fragile, okay, you can take away that trauma because you've already prepared them. So we're taking away some of the additional traumas that do happen, and the healing can be much better because it's shown that everybody has at least one additional trauma once they've lost a child, at least one. And so we have a binder out there that you'll see where we go through a step-by-step birth plan where they're going to choose. So like preparing to meet the baby, like, do I want to see the baby, just naked thrown on my chest? Do I want it wrapped up? Stuff like that. And so there's several choices, and we'll check off the right one. And then if we have time, we will actually type that plan up, and then they if we can, we'll print it out. But if not, they can print it out and leave a copy for the medical staff, a copy for themselves, and a copy back at Heaven's Gate in case they would forget it. We could email it to them quickly. Then during the delivery, our advocates for parents of perinatal loss offer gentle support, guidance, and reassurance. So there was a client that I was helping whose baby had trisomy 13 and 18, and a lot of other additional problems. And the baby was not expected to live long after birth. And I knew her wishes. Her wishes were she wanted to get her baby baptized. She wanted that baby to look in her in the eye, and there was one other thing. Those were her three primary things for when the baby, so I know the 1, 2, 3s of what was important to her. Well, she was in heavy labor. And so when she was in heavy labor, the nurse said, hey, how about I give you a narcotic? You take this medicine, you're going to sleep a while. When you wake up, then you'll be able to be strong enough and have the rest that you need to deliver your baby. And I said, this is your delivery. You decide what you want. But if I was you, I would have them check how far along I am before I took a drug that's going to dope me up for a few hours, because you only have so much time that she's going to live. They checked her and she was crowning. And so she would have been doped up for that. And so that's part of what we do as Apples. We also assist in the memory making, and we advocate for those special moments of treasuring their baby. So, hey, nurse, would you mind going out and getting, the ink for the footprints? Would you mind doing this or whatever? So we advocate for them, because the way turnover is going in these hospitals right now, a lot of these nurses have not had the time to prepare for how to help families through loss. Now, we can do this if they're in the Cincinnati area, but if they're outside the Cincinnati area, obviously we can't go into the hospital, but we can be available via phone. And after delivery, some people come, they come the day after they deliver and talk to us, and other people, they don't come till months or years later. So it really depends where they are, and there's no time limit on grief. We offer individual support to just a husband or a wife, or we offer couple support, and then we have group support on the second Thursday of each month is our online support. And then our Rainbow Baby support group is on the fourth Thursday of each month. And then, as I said, we have caskets and urns for all gestations. And it doesn't matter whether or not somebody gets our casket or urn. We will provide support services for anybody. As I said, it's individual, couple, or group support. And now I'm going to let you listen to a video about Heaven's Gain.
When she got the ultrasound machine out and she started looking, and it wasn't like the normal looking. It was just like
Something was off.
Yeah, something was off. And we're like, is everything okay? And she's like, I can't find his heartbeat. And from that moment on, it was like you could hear like glass shattering. It was like everything that was us, like all of a sudden just rushed away, and it was all over the floor, and we were just, I immediately like curled up into a fetal position, and I wouldn't talk to anybody.
There's a lot more pregnancy loss than people realize. 1 in 4 babies is lost in the first trimester.
We were gonna have a boy, and we were like through the moon excited. I was 21 weeks pregnant, and nobody wants to hear at 21 weeks that your baby, let alone our only boy, had passed.
Mike was at work, and so that was probably the hardest phone call I've ever had to make, was telling him that I was at the doctor's office for a perfectly normal appointment and that the baby didn't have a heartbeat anymore. She took 45 minutes on that ultrasound, and she said, I so desperately want his heart to start beating for you.
So it's a lot more babies than you realize, but people don't talk about it. And that's one of the things we're trying to do, is to get people to talk about it, because when they can talk about it, they can heal.
We're Jim and Donna Murphy, and we are the co-founders of Heaven's Gain Ministries. Donna is the executive director of Heaven's Gain Ministry, and I'm the vice president. The mission of Heaven's Gain Ministries is to provide for the spiritual, physical, and emotional needs for families experiencing stillborn or miscarriage losses. We provide for the families before, during, and after the actual loss of their child.
Donna comes running through the door, and I'm Donna Murphy, and I'm here to help you, and I later found out it was her wedding anniversary. It was her 25th wedding anniversary, and she was at the hospital with us, telling us what to expect and what he would look like and her experience. And so she was there with us and answered any questions that we had, questions that we didn't even know we had. She was able to answer, and that was really important.
Families come into us from the doctor's office, and before they go into the hospital, afraid, they're scared, they want to get it over with. When they leave Heaven's Gain, or when they hang up the phone from us after working on a birth plan, they leave empowered. They feel like they have a plan, and they're ready to meet their child and to treasure that time with them.
And I went directly from the doctor's office to Heaven's Gain Ministries. I picked up a miscarriage kit, and even though they knew it was my 4th miscarriage, they talked me through everything. They genuinely cared and knew that this was overwhelming no matter how many times you do it.
We wrote out a birth plan, and I didn't even know we should do something like that till Donna recommended, and that helped it because the nurses and doctors, they followed everything that we wanted to do. They didn't do anything we did not want to do, and Donna really helped us construct that the way we wanted it, and it just made us feel more comfortable.
We still had emotions, and we still had a lot of things to work through. A lot of questions our daughters had that we couldn't answer. And thanks be to God, Donna and Kim were right there. They were never more than a phone call away. If I hadn't been communicating with them, they'd text me or shoot me a quick phone call saying, are you okay? How's things going today? Do the girls have any new questions? Can I come over and babysit your girls? Give you guys some time to be together.
The most of our other miscarriages, we didn't have, they weren't old enough to even understand a lot of them. So that was a big help to kind of ease their questions and concerns, and just, even the oddest questions that they had, they were able to answer, and just, make them feel comfortable and understanding on it.
I was able to look at the website, and we looked at the pictures of the caskets, the beautiful caskets. I loved it. It was cherry wood. I don't know why, it just meant something.
You always like cherry.
Yeah, and so I said, I really want that one. That's the one I want my baby in.
It's been really good for my healing, even to be able to put myself out there every month and just help people through their losses. And that's something that I really felt called to do, because Heaven's Gain was able to help us before and during. And I knew that there was a lack of support for women and families after loss. And so that's what I did.
I would just be so energized after the meetings, because it just gave me so much hope, and just being able to talk about the miscarriages.
Well, I know something that I think was helpful for both of us was we went to some of the support groups at Heaven's Gain after our daughter died. And I think just having, at least for me, the opportunity to talk about it and to tell her story was healing. And then also to have that, glimmer that, you're not always going to feel as bad as you feel now. That the pain isn't always going to be as sharp. That time can also be healing.
There's just kind of like this certain, I don't know what to call it, like a belief system that we have that you're not really, grief is only supposed to be for so long. Like, when you're getting over this, like come on now, it's not get ready to get moving, instead of just allowing yourself to really experience the loss, experience this emotion, and to really authentically be able to be together as a family. And it was awesome to have Heaven's Gain help us with that. And we did have a funeral, and we had our priest friend of ours came and did a rite, and we went and buried Stella. So we did everything that you would do if we had lost a child that was like fully grown, So it was there was beauty to that, and Heaven's Gain was present the whole time.
So last year we helped around 1,500 families. It's increased every year, and we expect it will increase this year as well. Our goal is to reach all the families that want to bury their baby, or to have an appropriate urn to be able to put their remains in.
So if you or a loved one is suffering from miscarriage, stillbirth, or infant death, or if you've suffered that in the past, please know that we're here for you. You can find our website at heavensgain.org or email us at heavensgain@heavensgain.org. We're there for you. So testimonies from all of those families are available on our website too, their full story. So I'm asking, does your parish or parish family have a plan to serve these babies when there's no heartbeat, when they find out, like right available? And that's what my goal is, our goal is. Or this was a seminarian suggested, well, how about if every week in the bulletin that we have something? If you're experiencing a pregnancy loss, contact us even before you deliver the baby. Let us help you. I think that would be great to have every week, because if this is happening all the time, which it is in all your parishes, if you have childbearing age people in your parish, it's going to happen. And that week might be the week they look in there to look for somebody. So please let your parishioners know that you're available for them. What we hope to do is provide training for people all over the Archdiocese so that each parish family, if not each parish, has advocates for parents of perinatal loss. You heard my name and Kim's name mentioned often. We are actually the only 2 certified apples. We have 6 more who are training right now, but we are only reaching 1% of the people needing help. And so now we're trying to go out and teach it all over the place at each parish or each parish family. It's a certified program, and the people need to read 8 books and answer questions. There's a binder that's actually out there that you can look at that they will need to read, and then they'll have to attend 12 hours of class. And we will have this available both in person and online. But the online class will have to be a monitored class. All of our pamphlets are available. Most of these are in your folders, but there are additional ones out there. I recommend you take the one that says Assistance for those experiencing miscarriage and stillbirth, because that one talks generally about everything. So I highly recommend that you use these. Let me know if you need more. This specific brochure is if you have someone who's already gone through the process, they've already delivered, they've already buried and everything. The healing after miscarriage and stillbirth, it shows this chart and talks about all the normal symptoms and triggers and traumas afterwards. Then we have these printable brochures. They're on our website. You can print them off. Our pamphlets are printable too, but they don't look quite as nice as the brochures look nicer pre-printed, but the pamphlets look just the same if you print them where you're at. But we can only do so much at Heaven's Gate. I'm working a ton of hours, and other people need to start doing this around the world here. Families need their priest to guide them to the heavenly reunification with their baby, where the ultimate healing happens. You guys are so important. I can't emphasize how important you are. They need to know that there's hope, especially if their baby was not baptized. They need to know that there's hope, because there's this constant fear that my baby is being tortured in hell because he was not baptized. That is a constant torture that happens. And you can help give them hope. And the opportunity to meet your baby again in heaven can be a strong motivator in your faith. I was already involved in my faith. I already had a pretty strong faith. But I felt like after I lost my baby, I was making my way to heaven. Instead of backing up from hell, I was running there. So it's a strong motivator. It can help them become stronger in their faith, or they can end up leaving their faith. According to our surveys, and of these people, only 15% did not have a faith base. Only 53% thought that their faith base was helpful. Their faith was helpful, and that's really sad. It should be helpful, and so you clergy are so essential to this healing process, because they want to look forward to the reunification with their baby in heaven. I'm going to read this comment from Cunningham. In my bereaved parent support group survey, which I conducted years ago, fewer than 50% of parents felt that their clergy were understanding and supportive. Now, that's from 1997. You know, you guys obviously are not the problem, you're here. It's kind of like when the priest talks about all the people who aren't in church, and you're in church, and you're like, yeah, well, we're here. You know, we're not the people you should be talking to about this, right? So you guys are here. You're the ones who care, right? So I really, really, really appreciate you being here. According to our survey, only 34% said their pastor, priest, or rabbi or minister was helpful. And then we have wonderful comments like, our priest was wonderful. We had a traditional Catholic funeral mass. He was very respectful and sympathetic. He cried with us and told us that his sister lost a baby too. He blessed my baby's urn and kissed my baby's urn. This was so comforting to me. So you have these in your notes, by the way. So this is some people's comments on faith and loss. I don't want people to tell me that it's in God's plan. I'm pretty angry at God right now. My faith base was shattered because by my loss. I begged for a priest to be present when my son was born because I wanted him baptized. He showed up briefly, gave me last rites, and said he had to go say Mass. When I begged him to baptize my son, he told me the church didn't baptize stillborns. To stop me from screaming and to shut me up, he finally told my husband how to baptize him, left holy water, and left, which actually I think was a good plan. The pastor at the church where we had his service told me as we left not to grieve, that God needed another angel and we should rejoice. It took me 6 years to step inside a church again. So I think the idea of saying, this is how I looked at it. I baptized my kids. I knew they weren't alive. I knew it probably didn't count, but I baptized them anyway. And if it didn't count, it didn't count. But I did what I could do. So that's the way I looked at it. Here's another one. I asked my pro-life priest if he could do a service for my son who died at 19 weeks. He said, bring it to me after Mass and I will bless it. He was not an it. How can a pro-life priest call my son an it? And I was angry at God. I hated God for allowing this to happen. I was very bitter towards religion, especially when my Christian friends offered me inept and hurtful condolences, such as your baby's in a better place, or God took him to teach you a lesson. What kind of God kills a baby to teach his mother a lesson? And what is the lesson? I have never been able to reconcile Robert's death with any faith in God. So these are some hurtful comments, but we have some really wonderful ones. I believe my faith in God and prayers were the major contributing factors to my healing. I cannot imagine enduring this loss without our faith. Our priest and church at which our son was laid to rest were incredibly helpful and provided much consolation. Our faith provides us with the hope of sweet reunion with our Gabriel, and it's not my Gabriel, by the way, it's not my writing, and the belief that he enjoys eternal life among his Savior and our Blessed Mother. I feel God carried us through this and continues to 34 years later. This is somebody who answered the survey because she thought this was important 34 years later. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. My Catholic faith was extremely healing in this grief process. The humanity and personhood of our daughter was never questioned within our church family, and she's been mourned by those who loved her while she was in the womb. We have received so much support from our parish. Our priest gave us the most beautiful funeral mass, which was incredibly healing. Though I have become repeatedly angry at God since my daughter's death, without my faith, I don't know where I would be. I mean, that's beautiful. And you guys know how to serve, and you know how to do it, and you're going to be a part of that healing. Without my faith, I'm not sure I would have been able to handle the loss of my baby. Knowing that my baby was in heaven in the arms of my Lord and my Heavenly Mother gave me the consolation I needed. My faith led me to other souls that had gone through similar situations and gave me hope when I wasn't sure what to do. So spiritually, what can we do? Well, pray for these people. I told you a part of my story, but I didn't tell you the whole thing. So when we went into the hospital, I was really in the state of shock. I really just couldn't handle what was happening to me. And all I knew is I wanted the Eucharist, and after that, I didn't want to know anything. And so I said to my husband, I said, turn on the TV. He said, it's daytime. There's nothing good on. I said, I don't care. Turn on a soap opera. Turn on anything. I want to live somebody else's life right now in my brain and not mine. And he goes, okay, we'll do it. But we're going to say Deck of the Rosary. I'm going to read you a little bit about what they handed me about pregnancy loss, and then you can watch TV. And we did this like every hour. Decade of the Rosary, read about pregnancy loss, watch TV. Over and over all day. Okay, we get there at 8 in the morning. It's 9 at night, and I haven't started labor still. Nothing is inducing me because I'm fighting it. See, part of the whole being prepared for beforehand helps you to relax, to release the baby. Well, I guess my husband got a get out of jail free card, I always call it, because he was going to get to go home because they had said nothing's happening, you guys can go home. So we were going to go home, and the nurse who was with me all day, her name was Kathleen, and she was the best. She was so wonderful all day. She gave me a hug goodbye, and when she did, my water broke. And so we were staying. And at that moment, all day long, I was like, I can't do this. I cannot do this. At that moment, all of a sudden, I was like, I'm going to birth my baby. My labor will be my gift to my child. I will birth my child, and I can do this. I did not find out, and I did. I hugged my husband. I said, hug me for a couple minutes, then go to sleep. And I went through labor through the night by myself, and I was okay with it. I had this strength I couldn't understand. And when he was born, strength left. But through the labor, I had this strength, and I didn't understand it. I did not know that all of my familia sisters, my Bible study and sisters, joined together at that moment at 9 o'clock. They were in Eucharistic adoration. All day long, I didn't have the strength, but they gathered together to pray. So one of the things you can do is have your bereavement team or your mom's team. Gosh, I always cry at this point when I talk about this. And this is not a sadness cry. This is like, prayer is so strong, it makes me cry. It's so amazing when I talk about this. I had all this strength. So what I recommend is have your mom's group or your pro-life group, when somebody is going in to deliver a baby or they're going to be delivering at home, do a sign-up genius. Somebody praying for her round the clock. It's pretty simple. Just put someone in charge of it. You don't need to do it. Put someone in charge of it in your parish so that there is somebody praying the whole time. And wrap your arms around him or her and let Jesus comfort them through you. I don't know how that is with all this stuff, but hopefully you guys can hug still. This is ridiculous. Anyway, don't try and make sense of the loss, but accept it as a serious loss of one of her children. And once again, don't say God's will was done, because they really don't understand permissive will versus direct, perfect will. Pray for them to have discernment of spirits. It's just, they are going to blame themselves one way or another. Men blame themselves often because they said, oh, I had relations with my wife. She dearly didn't want to have relations that week. I had relations with her. We probably killed the baby. Women will say, they told me not to do this, and I did this. For myself, the week before, I had eaten lunch meat with all of my pregnancies, all 9 of my pregnancies. And this 10th pregnancy, I forgot. They told me don't eat lunch meat, and I had a finger sandwich. And I thought I killed my baby with a finger sandwich, right? Because this discernment of spirit, this blame that happens. So help them to understand that it's not blame. They did the test, and I did not have that, whatever bacteria it is. Protect them from the lies of the devil. The discernment of spirit is so important in this situation. And pray for the hole in their hearts that will scab and leave a scar. And try to understand it can only fully heal when she meets her baby again someday in heaven. People of this age go on the internet for everything. I go on the internet for a lot of things. But did you know that if you look up baby without baptism, one of the first things that comes up is Wiki. And Wiki will give you this response. Bishop Fulgentius says, hold most firmly and never doubt that not only adults with the use of reason, but also children who begin their life in the womb of their mothers or who die thereafter, already born from their mothers, pass from this world without the sacrament of holy baptism, which is given in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, must be punished with the endless penalty of eternal fire. Even if they have no sin from their own actions, still, by their carnal conception and birth, they've contracted the damnation of original sin. That is the first thing that comes up if you Google baby without baptism. And your families are going to Google. And there's other ones too. But I just wanted to tell you that, because these families that are going to come into you have gone on the website and onto Google, and they've Googled these things, and they've found horrible things. And there is a number of people from very early on, like the 200s and stuff like that, who have said things like this. And so they're going to be very torn. And so I will talk to you about some of the things having that I recommend, like the USCCB. They have something for those who, to give solace for those who have miscarriage, that says, so let us look forward to the day when our families will be rejoined in heaven someday. So I have information in there that you can use to say, well, this is what the bishops are saying now. So you understand, so you don't have to live in fear that you couldn't protect your baby then, and now they're punished forever in hell because you could not keep your baby alive. So anyway, that's a hard thing to leave with at lunch, but let's go to lunch. And I thought it was a good thing to bring up now, so we can talk about, as we have lunch, what would you do if they came in and said something like that? So thanks for listening.